So we are back for part 2 of 12 Days of Your Film. Welcome back to the TriPOD Behind the Creative podcast with me, Kevin Owens, creative director of Your Film,
and him, Marc Runkee,
and Matthew Brain Newman,
Kevin Balls Owens, Marc the Mind Runkee,
Marc the Eyes.
Oh, that's right, of course.
So I hope you enjoyed part 1. If you
be watching otherwise,
if you haven't seen it, I'd go back because you'll not know where you are if you start on this one.
Yeah, you'd be lost.
You'd be absolutely lost.
The year doesn't start in July.
So we are at July of 2022. Projects that we worked on at Your Film last year, revisiting them, talking about them, showing the clips. So where we're up to, Matthew? Which project did we do?
No,
somewhere in the summer.
We're definitely in July, Marc. A month which will be burned into my memory for numerous reasons, including having to move house on the 2 hottest days of the year, which you and I didn't get to go to the Prodigy that night, which we should have done. We filmed an advert that hasn't actually been released yet, but we're going to talk about it, for Pennine Home Improvements.
So Pennine is next.
Is it next?
Okay. Well, I think the only thing to say is we filmed that on the hottest day of the year. The hottest day, I think, ever recorded in world history. Where were we? Teesside? We're around Teesside.
Nunthorpe,
yeah. It was absolutely sweltering. So it was great for the shoot because it was this beautiful home that had this fantastic living space extension put onto it. But bloody hell, it was hard work.
One of the shots in the lines of the script was a low angle up, like a sunroof basically, wasn't it? And the voiceover talked about letting in the light. Well,
yeah,
there was no issue getting that light to come in through that.
No, there wasn't. There was no issue there. And credited in this production was Betty Swallocks. She did a great job. So Pennine are obviously a really well-known brand in the Northeast. They've been around for donkey's years. They're just one of those brands that we were excited to work with just from still knowing the jingles from the radio commercials from when we were kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, we pitched them, to be fair, an absolutely fantastic script. I can't remember who wrote it. Oh yeah, it was me.
Well, you say that.
You try and take credit for that script.
Oh, not the script, no.
Yeah, okay, we'll give you the tagline. The tagline.
I think the concept was a round table discussion.
Well, I think the pertinent thing is we did get invited in to pitch, and we had unusually 3 fully developed pitches.
Yes.
And it was one of those situations where all 3 were well received, but we possibly could have stopped after the first one because they liked that one so much. Mm-hmm. And there was, I think, it wasn't an amalgamation of concepts, but there was one idea for an opening shot on one of the other 2 pitches that was sort of incorporated into the opening shot of this. But apart from that, it was pretty pure. Mm-hmm. But they're just in a good position, a position where they hadn't done any TV advertising since the pandemic. And they were obviously starting from scratch because people know them, but they definitely wanted to do something that was more lifestyle-y brand. It was definitely not a sales ad. It definitely wasn't a gimmick ad. They were very clear. They didn't want to have a random celebrity doing a few pun lines. They didn't want to do a sale must end this weekend, 20% off, whatever. It wasn't about that. It was about, we're not just windows, not just doors, it's Pennine Home Improvements, we're selling a lifestyle, and they'd obviously recently done the work on the property that we're filmed in. So it all came together really nicely.
I think
no one's seen it yet, but it looks excellent.
Well, yes, that's it. But it's one of those things where you just feel like from day one, I know we gave them 3, but like the concept, the script, the day that you got weather-wise, it felt like one of those projects where everything just seemed to kind of fall into place at the right time, and the advert as well. the finished piece, like from the actual storyboard to what they got, was the vision that we had. You know, there was no like curveballs thrown or anything like that, like from that we didn't see coming. It was.
We were talking about this earlier about a different project entirely, but that was one where I can't remember there being much discussion about the edit. It evolved a little bit, but it was basically was so well kind of planned and pitched and planned that when they saw it, they were like, "Oh well, that's what we're expecting."
Yeah, pretty much. It was pretty smooth. It was too hot to get additional shots, so there was nothing else. There's nothing we could have changed. No, but
you,
it was.
You did get additional shots. That was for
Other
social,
versions, yeah.
other versions.
That's right.
YouTube
Yeah,
specifically.
it was.
as well.
It was probably. It was within the week before the shoot that they said, as well as the TV commercial, we want to have a version to use as a YouTube pre-roll. That happens. That happens quite often actually at the minute, where people are looking at TV but do want to try on social as well. The problem is what works as a YouTube pre-roll isn't the same as what works as a 30-second TV commercial. So what a week anyway to kind of come up with it. It's the main thing is putting a hook at the beginning of a YouTube pre-roll, so something that's intriguing and basically trying to stop the person from skipping after the 5 seconds onto the video that they wanted to watch in the first place. Mm-hmm. So even asking a question or just building up some intrigue works. So yeah, we're added in an additional shot to the plan that were then used for the beginning of the YouTube pre-roll. So we could show both versions on this, so people can sort of see the difference.
We can't show anything yet.
Of course we
We'll
can.
have to show the behind the scenes.
We'll have to show behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Do we?
Have we got a behind the scenes for that? I don't think I've seen it.
Nothing's been cut together. We just got a lot of footage.
Right. Well,
I put a couple of clips together to put up on LinkedIn.
by the time this goes out,
What, in a few days?
this will be edited together in a few days and ready to go with it. Is it?
I don't know.
Is this not? Oh, okay.
Year in review.
Cut
isn't
that.
it? We can't show the advert because they haven't put it on TV yet. But that's fine.
Well, what I was going to say
can't
was,
say the tagline then.
well, I came up with that.
Well, you came up with Roll VAT as well, so
I like it. Well, what I was going to say was actually we've done a podcast with Alan Robson, the voice of Pennine,
friend of the show.
friend of the show, long time listener.
Well, should we tee that up properly? Should we explain how that came to be? Or is that
What I was going to say was, like, from my understanding of not being up here, and he's a local legend. But am I right in thinking he originally did the voiceovers for previous adverts?
Yeah, that's what happened. We were in the planning stage and we talked about the type of voiceover that we thought it needed, which was warm and inviting. And, you know, obviously the concept of the ad is simply, you know, a young mum coming home to the young family and just showing off the different ways in which they're all enjoying the living spaces. So we wanted something warm and inviting, and they didn't have much current research to give to us, but what they said was that the research had definitely shown that even though he hadn't done anything with them for a good number of years, I would say 15 years plus, and basically throughout the 90s he was synonymous with Pennine, and the research turned up that, you know, a large part of the target market still heavily associated with that. Mm-hmm. So it was actually Pennine who said to us, well, do you want to see if he'd be interested in doing the voiceover? We don't need to, like, he's not going to introduce himself in it, but for those that recognise it, it'll be a nice little callback, and for those that don't, it's just a nice warm voice, you know. So that's how it happened. So Kev and I got to finally tick a box on the old childhood dream chart, didn't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I must say, going back to the podcast with, I want to say Sir Alan Robson.
Alan Robson, MBE.
Not knowing that much about him, I actually found that really interesting to watch. I didn't think I was going to, but yeah,
I think it's the presenters really, you know, frame it nicely.
Well, as I told Alan Robson, at least twice. My dad never had much time for Night Owls or any of Alan Robson's broadcasts.
Yeah, Matthew was just negging him the entire
But
time.
he did. But my dad actually messaged us within the last week saying, I've been watching some of the Alan Robson podcasts. I found myself about half an hour in. I was quite engaged. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Well, just to wrap up the Pennine one anyway, I'd also say it was really nice that, number one, that was a real Pennine home. So that was some work that they had absolutely done. And it was a real family as well in the ad, which, to go along with what you were saying, Mark, about just feeling nice. I think that all kind of played into it. So yeah, very proud to be Pennine.
Might have to bleep that, Callum.
Why? Nah, you've been way too careful. So we're not rolling tape on that one, or maybe what we're rolling.
Well, we'll show some behind the scenes clips on that one.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Exactly.
You know those flowers?
Matthew? I've already forgotten where we are.
I believe that following July typically comes August.
August.
Did anything important happen for you in August, Mark? Okay, moving on.
Did I go to Morocco?
Well, I think you might have done, actually.
Well then, yes, Matthew, something did. But
There
what
you
happened
go.
while I was in Morocco?
Well, I was
at
here with my
YourFilm.
nose to the grindstone, slaving away, getting projects out, Mark, in your absence. The project that I want to talk about in August was a collaboration with an agency that we've known and worked with for 10 years plus. Well, actually more than that now. I think 2009 was the first project with them. Urban River, based down South Shields. They had been working for a while with a client who was called Oil Consultants. They were a recruitment agency for the oil and gas sector, but obviously the oil and gas sector these days is not just oil and gas, it's all energy, it's renewables, that's the big space. Yeah. So they were working with Urban River on a rebrand, changing name, becoming Visuna, and positioning themselves to be the recruitment specialist, not just for the traditional oil and gas, but in the new, renewables and green energy sector. So it's a sort of project which, again, people might not assume that we do. Certainly, the majority of projects that we do, we start from an initial brief and kind of develop all the creative. But as you know, there are plenty of projects that we do where we are in collaboration with an agency. They give us some assets, quite often a fully realised storyboard, and say, can you just actually put that together and make that work? Yeah. And that's what this one was. So the final video is only about 50 seconds long. It's quite simple, motion graphics animation, but they did all the design and the storyboard and kept it and keep them with the other, the broader work that they were doing. And then we literally just put it together for them. So quite simple, quite easy, but quite effective. In fact, I posted it a couple of days ago on LinkedIn, and Visuna sort of put a comment on saying how simple and effective it was. So job done.
Very good. So we're going to show
this one we can't show because it's already out there.
This one.
So roll tape.
As the world of energy is changing, we are too. We're on a journey to evolve and diversify our organisation to be the best we can be. We're harnessing our 20+ years of experience and skill to push forward our boundaries and enter a new era. Oil Consultants is now Visuna. Our new name means strength, force and power, combined with together as one. Our brand symbol represents a connection of people, energy, unity and movement. Together with you in the energy and tech sector, we're evolving our focus from traditional energy recruitment into sustainable markets too. Our name has changed, but our services remain unrivaled. Visuna, on a journey with you in the energy transition.
Pop quiz. We've just done July and August. Where we're at?
We're counting on fingers and toes.
Just tell me what to say.
in September, Callum joined us. I was going to say he's the most recent member of the team, but he's not. Kerry's joined us since, but he's the most newest junior member of the creative team. And before he'd even crossed the door, he was hard at work on a television advert. Just what his dreams were made of, wasn't it, when he was at college, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So AR Kitchens, it was someone who contacted us directly. They're a business which is coming up 3 years old. I believe they started in January of 2021, maybe. So they've got a showroom in Baker. They are AR Kitchens, but they do bedrooms and bathrooms as well. They came to us and said, basically, we've done radio already this year. Mm-hmm. Frankly, not blown away by the results. Want to try TV, want to try local TV, and we are adamant, because we've spoken to every customer who's walked through the door in the 2 years we've been in business, that we know exactly who our target audience is, which they had, amongst other things, sort of brainstormed out on a bit of paper and had it all drawn out. So they presented me with a photograph, which was a stock photograph, of a woman in her early 50s. I think she was wearing a nurse's outfit. So they had this photograph and they had this brainstorm on a bit of paper that basically mapped out what this woman's life was, what she was into for fun, what her TV programs were, what sort of job she had.
They've done the research.
Oh yeah. Well, like I say, they said to me, every customer that had, they asked questions of. So fair play. Mm-hmm. So they said, we're positive what we want to do is go daytime, ITV TNTs, and for the sort of resource they had and wanting to try things, they said, a couple of weeks maximum. So we obviously work with ITV. So in this case, it was kind of us, ITV, and the client just working together, because the only difference, the only suggestion that we kind of made to change that plan was to have the very first airing of the advert go out in prime time.
Yeah.
So that it gave them something to sort of do a little bit of social media around, hang the hat on, and obviously a little bit of kudos to say, you can see our campaign starting in Emmerdale, as it was. But then everything else was daytime only. So we had the conversation sort of mid to late August, shot the ad 1st of September. It was on air by the 20th of September. Very quick turnaround. That was... You pretty much directed most of that, because I was ill. I was there in spirit, and only partially in body. But between the two of us, we got it done.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we backed each other up there.
Yeah,
it was your vision.
Well, it was pretty straightforward, wasn't it? We had a location move, so we shot most of it in their showroom, and then we moved to a house nearby and shot the opening and closing scenes, basically. Yeah. But very simple advert, did exactly what it needed to do, got across sales information, showed the quality of the products, talked about what was a bit different about them compared to the competition. And turns out they were spot on, because they ran the campaign for 2 weeks and immediately said that they had a number of sales that they know are attributable to that campaign.
Yeah.
So there has been discussion about running the advert again, which I think will possibly happen early New Year. But for now, you can see the version that's out there already.
I couldn't believe how difficult it was to find a trustworthy local kitchen supplier with a great reputation. AR Kitchen's customer service and attention to detail really stood out to me. All of their kitchen products are designed and manufactured in the Northeast, and I love the quality of their units. I trusted AR Kitchens to help me design my ideal space. They were there for me from concept to completion. Thank you, AR Kitchens. Visit their showroom on Brough Park Industrial Estate, Newcastle.
October rolled around, Kevin's birthday month. What else happened in October?
I wanted a little bit more from you for your birthday month after your 40th. I was kind of expecting something.
I'm not Elton John. The big numbers are the only party days. And then it goes back to just being miserable.
Well, as you recall, Marc enjoyed throwing some shapes on the dance floor at your 40th.
He did?
I did, yes.
He cut a hell of a rug.
I know, I was stunned. Sweat.
So what's the project?
Well, do we give it its Sunday name, its full name, or its shortened name?
Okay. Well, definitely its shortened name, because that's the brand now.
WTTB.co.uk.
Yeah.
Which stands for?
Where the trade buys.
And what does the trade buy from where the trade buys?
Printed anything.
Pretty
Printed anything. Now there's a name for you.
Printed anything.
There's a name for you. I know it's a bit say what you see, but
It should be in the strapline.
here he goes again. He said, "You hit one out the park, and now look at him."
Well, you came up with it. You said that.
I'm thinking it should be proud to be printed. We got another winner.
Yeah, Mark, let's move into some new areas. Everyone's proud. Okay, we'll get it. Well, yeah, WTTB. We got the in because the one of the people involved in the process for putting the brief out is someone that we know.
Well, we used to be neighbours in this building.
Used to be
didn't we?
neighbours in the building,
Known for a very long time.
and so we were lucky enough to get included in taking the brief. We knew that we were up against other agencies, so it's one of those situations where you probably more than anything, it's what ideas, concepts you can bring that they're the most confident are going to fulfill the return on investment that they need from it. And WTTB had never advertised on television before, and quite similar to Hippo Bag, I would say we're fairly nervous about that, which I think's always fair because you want to make sure you get the return. So
The other big similarity between them and Hippo Bag is that they're both clients who are very comfortable, before we ever get involved, spending relatively large amounts of money every month on online marketing. And they get that comfort because they know, right, well, I can see how many people clicked on that and how many people followed through and bought.
yeah,
When it comes to TV or even just other video marketing, it's there's a lot more kind of trepidation there that they feel it's a lot more kind of woolly to assess the impact. I don't think it is particularly, but I understand where they're coming from.
yeah. Well, I suppose it's the comfort levels come from having so much tracking data from online spend, isn't it? So anything else in comparison is always going to feel like more of a risk, more of a roll of the dice. But you know, it was quite clear what they had to do. I believe in the brief they were very specific about the ad needing to be funny. And now our thing is always, when something like that's in a brief, question it. Why does it need to be funny? And if you don't get a good answer, then it's probably telling you, well, so it doesn't necessarily need to be funny. We're not ruling that out, but we could go down a path here just on that word that's just not going to end in the right place.
I think the biggest issue potentially is getting a brief from anyone that says make us a funny advert. Funny equals memorable. That you can't get away from that. And humour is one of the key drivers of recall of television adverts in particular. But it takes time to be funny. And I think the biggest issue that we felt there was in their case was totally get the impulse to be funny / memorable, but their target audience for this advert is kind of a niche within a niche.
Yeah.
And there was so much to explain and get across that there wasn't enough room to do that and be funny. Like if, you know, obviously without naming who it is, we know we've got this storyboard and script out there at the minute for quite a well-known client, and it's just a two-hander conversation that's got a bit of humour in it, because it's just the whole purpose of the 30 seconds is to tell you one bit of information, which comes towards the end. That's not what this was.
No, we needed to explain, hello target audience, we're talking to you. And in this case, it was basically like an Etsy seller. So someone that can do cool designs and then can make money by printing those designs onto
But who crucially probably isn't doing that day to day for a job. So they're probably working in an office somewhere and then doing this at night. So like, how do you even begin to pull them out of, you know, a mosaic or whatever? How do you find that as an audience member in a traditional advertising space?
So you've got to find these people who've got this side hustle on the go, and think, well, I mean, that's the name where the trade buys. You know, it's like, well, they had some really good sales points. Like they know that prices are very competitive compared to their competition. They had the same, if not more, products than the competition. But it was really kind of trying to drill it down to that audience, and also had to get across, and we've got so many products.
Yeah.
And to get that across, you had to spend time, as Matthew said, you've got to spend real estate in the commercial showing them.
Coming back to that point where they said they wanted it funny, I think, and obviously the viewers can make their own decision, but I think the edit that you've come up with, that's been produced, is humorous, it's quirky. So I think it did it has got that through the edit, not actually in the dialogue or the actress's body language or the things that she does, because there's so many products. For me, I look at that and think that's quite a quirky, happy, looking TV commercial. It's quite...
Yeah, well, going back to, how we're kind of pitched for it, we came up with, I think it was 3 different concepts to pitch. And it was that thing of, well, we're like all 3, we're like this one the best, but we're like that element from that one and that element from that one. Can we kind of use those elements to really kind of push the quirkiness of it, I suppose is a good way of putting it, and make it memorable? If we're not going to be, all out funny with it, can we do that? And we said, well, yeah, we think we can. We'll certainly have a go and see what happens. So the main concept was Matthew's concept. Props to Matthew for coming up with that. I think it was...
Props to me for remembering a very famous film, basically. But
yeah, so it's like the Mary Poppins bag, which fits brilliantly with, right, let's show as many products as possible. What's a funny delivery system for that?
Yeah.
And obviously, instead of a bag, it's a box that the
some of the
customers put
things
stuff
that
from.
the providers print are small, but obviously like 7 foot whatever banners, poster banners, and life-size cutouts. And
the thing that they just really engaged with during the pitch process was, it was just a simple visual metaphor, if that is the right word in this case, for the fact that pretty much you imagine it and they'll print it. Like, the idea was that it didn't matter how many products you pulled out of that box, you got the point that if you can think of it, they can probably print it.
Yeah. So it was quite nice because it was... it's not very often that you have to plan practical effects for stuff that we do. But we did for that.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, the banner coming out, the life-size pop-up cardboard banner, is as tall as it is, so we had to rig something up to kind of be able to do that. And you can always think, could we do it in post? Is there a way to do that digitally? But sometimes it's like, no, you know what it is? If we just put some time into this at the front end, we can get it to work on the day, and you'll probably get a much better, more authentic result.
Particularly helped by the fact that the client, provided their own house, which had plenty of space to film in, which is not usually the case. And then they obviously did, actually created the products that we're using as props. So it was a collaboration from that point. And that all just helps. It's like, it's always going to look better if it's real, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. They did throw a curveball before we shot the commercial.
Now, when you say before, how soon before you shouted action?
I think there might have been, because, it was a few weeks ago, wasn't it now? So memory's already gone. It was a few weeks ago, wasn't it? Oh no, it was months.
A little bit. Well, I think I was stood in the kitchen with Chris, and I think Louise had just come back with all the McDonald's, and I think I was just like that when he said it to me the first time. But I think you heard it after that.
Yeah. This isn't going to be a TV commercial anymore. It's going to be on YouTube. As I've mentioned before, a YouTube video and what that should be, very different to what a TV commercial should be. We did have, a good factor of safety in that we deliberately shot way more products than we ever dreamed would be able to fit into a 30-second TV commercial. So I thought, well, at least we've got options, in the edit. So yeah, as we're kind of filming it, we're already thinking, right, this is going to be on YouTube now. Like, how can we make that work? So we've started those discussions. The shoot itself was a relatively fun day, I would say.
There is a behind the scenes to prove that it was a fun day. I think that's
that's true.
There is, yeah. I look absolutely shattered in that video. But yeah.
No, you look good.
Yeah, thanks, mate. So yeah, I think, and then another curveball, a curve back. As we're in the edit, I think they said, no, actually, we want to put it on TV as well. So it was good in that, we eventually, the 30 seconds that were thought were going to
in
make
the end,
the
we
first
delivered
list,
4 versions, didn't we? There was a 50-second YouTube native, I think, cut, which kind of had all the products in. There was a 30-second YouTube, like for paid YouTube use. There was a 6-second bumper, which really was kind of created after the fact, basically.
Yeah. I think,
and then obviously the 30-second TV.
Yeah, I think for me that was a case of there wasn't too short, like you said. It's a big spend for them. Oh, maybe we'll just go online. Then yeah, that's the safest route. We'll do that. And then when they saw the edit coming together, then the excitement started. It's like the possibilities. Where could we? And then it's like, we've got this now. We've done this. This is the state of play that we're at now. What can it become? And all of a sudden it was like, well, it should go on this and it should go on that. After the fact that we'd filmed, not before we'd filmed, like the excitement, the energy needed to be put at the up front as well, so that it wasn't kind of like second guessing. We had all the elements lined up to go on those channels, and quite rightly we got it done. We achieved like what they wanted, but I think that was it. That was the curveball came from their excitement of seeing what it had become there, moving in front of them from like a script to a storyboard to there it is. It's moving. We understand it now. This is what we can do.
Yeah, I think you get 2 different types of clients. You get some clients that just kind of leave you to it, and you get other clients that want to be very involved in all aspects of the production. Because really, like I said before, we borrowed some elements from the other concept, and then in the edit, like kind of mutually agreed, that's not really adding anything to it. It's just not working. So we'll drop that, but then we kind of developed other things that weren't planned. I'm just talking about like probably you could refer to them as like bells and whistles that you're adding to in post production. But I do remember the client saying early on, when they were kind of asking for changes to the edit, what do you think? Because obviously, want your input, want to make sure you're happy with how it's going. And I said, don't worry, I'll speak up. And as we progressed through, I did. And it's a creative process, so there's different opinions, and we had different thoughts at times about how things should work. But at the end of the day, you try things out, and it all came together. And I think, again, it's another one where I kind of keep saying it, but the end product speaks for itself. The client was really happy with it. We were really happy with it. And most importantly of all, it's worked.
It has. It's still early days, but they've reported back that there's been very good stats coming through on the online side of the campaign, and that the TV campaign is definitely driving traffic and clicks and stuff that wasn't there before. And I gather there's talk about expanding the campaign for next year. So
marvellous.
Happy days.
Yeah, perfect. Roll tape.
Turn your designs and ideas into printed products with WTTB.co.uk. Over 200 different products. Free white label delivery available. Competitive trade pricing. Award-winning customer support from real people. Next day delivery available on selected products. We have all the tools you need to grow your business. Plus, everything is produced right here in the UK. WTTB.co.uk, where ordering print is made simple.
So November, what was the project that we're going to talk about in November?
I guess we'll talk about Leatherback.
Who or what? is a leatherback?
Well, Leatherback is actually named after the leatherback turtle. I forget the reasons why, but it is. It's a new money transfer app. So if you think about things like, well, it's just called Wise these days, but TransferWise, that kind of thing, it's a version of that. So this was a brief that was brought to us through a partner agency. Classic case, I believe, of they'd been having a conversation for months, and then all of a sudden the client was ready to go and wanted to be on TV like tomorrow, which of course can't happen. We were told we had about a month to do it, which for the concept we came up with was doable, if very tight. And then it took about 2 weeks to actually get the client to sign things off and go from there. Which, it's all par for the course, but of course the deadline never changed.
So a month to get it on TV?
To get it conceptualised, written, cleared at script stage, produced, signed off by the client, cleared at video stage, and distributed to TV stations.
And how far in advance does it need to be delivered to the TV stations?
This one wasn't so bad. Depending on the TV station, sometimes you can lose a week on that, but this one wasn't so bad on that one.
So potentially
There's a lot of deliveries, but a lot of them were because of the audience. The advert mentions currencies like Indian rupee and Ghanaian cedi and stuff. They had a very defined audience, and they were going for a mix of ethnic channels. So that wasn't so much of a factor. It was just a very tight turnaround.
Yeah. But if it had been like for terrestrial TV, the normal circumstance, really, we would have only had 3 weeks as opposed to, like you said, 4. Potentially,
as I say, Sky are kind of the most stringent on that, but 4 weeks, despite what was said about AR Kitchens, which is about the same time frame, it's not ideal. You want, really want 6 weeks absolute minimum, 8 weeks really. But anyway, that's where we're at. So there was another advert where the audience has never heard of Leatherback. They were doing other marketing activity, but as far as the TV's concerned, you've got to assume that people haven't heard of this before. So you've got 30 seconds to explain what it is, why it exists, why they should be using it, and then encourage them to download the app. I think the app was actually published on the App Store maybe a day before the campaign went live, so it gives you an idea of what was going on behind the scenes. But it was one of those where, based on the time frame, there was only certain things that we could do, and we presented the first cut to the client, who then had, let's say, notes that might have taken a few weeks to work through. So there was a bit of there was always going to be some iteration, but obviously that had to speed up, and it was complicated by the fact that it was different people, including myself, were out the office. So at one point I was leading it, and then you were leading it. But the point is, it did get done in the time frame that we needed to do it, and the end result is, from the client's perspective, the first iteration they saw, which I explained at the time, was almost like a live action storyboard. It was very rough and ready animation stuff at that point. But where it went, it basically, on our side, it went through the process I knew it would go through, but the challenge was trying to kind of keep the client engaged and understand that what they were literally seeing with their own eyes on this day was going to be quite a lot advanced by the time they saw it on the following day, sort of thing.
It coaxed a brief out of them, didn't it, the first cut?
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, right, okay, now we'll see what you're doing, now we'll think about what it could be, which happens. Again, not so much of a problem if you've got more time, but they were very happy with the end result. That's the important thing, and since that initial delivery, they've booked it onto more channels, so it's obviously working for them.
That's it. That's the main thing, isn't it? If you're going to book it more, then it's obviously doing the job.
Exactly. And it's just a good example of something we've done a lot of, which is taking people out of TV for the first time and having to go through that process of not just selling something, but explaining what it is, explaining why it's got the edge over something else, how you can use it, where you can get it from. That's a lot of doing 30 seconds, but we've done a lot of that kind of work. But
I was going to say...
Roll tape!
Leatherback helps you move your money securely from one country to another with ease. With over 20 currencies to choose from, including Indian rupee, naira, Ghanaian cedi and US dollar, with Leatherback you can move money anytime, anywhere. Simply sign up, verify your identity, and you're ready to add money to your account. Leatherback is licensed in 4 countries, and with full visibility of your cash flow via our dashboard, you're in control. One access, one platform, one world. Download the Leatherback app and let the journey begin.
We're in December.
We're in December, but what could we be showing in December?
Well, hang on, Matthew's name checked everyone's birthdays, birthday months. December's Matthew's birthday month.
I thought, is it?
It's not upon we yet.
I thought it was January.
Nearly.
January.
New Year's Eve.
Nearly.
I was born at about 5:15 on New Year's Eve in the evening.
Just
so
squeaked in.
Pretty close. To
Just squeaked in.
January.
So, which project are we talking about? It's a Christmassy project, I hope.
Yes, the one I picked is a Christmas project, but seeing as we're talking in general, we're obviously at the end of another insanely busy year. As we're sitting recording this, we're less than a week away from closing the office for a couple of weeks for Christmas.
Got a bottle of whiskey or something. That's not where this is leading.
No, not yet.
Thanks, mate.
Not yet. Come to think of it, I might be owed a couple of bottles of whiskey now. Think about it. But anyway, is there anything that we're sort of barreling towards the deadline, like got to get out the door in the next few days? That certainly, I know there's a lot of stuff that fits the bill of stuff that we're delivering for agencies where we might not have any contact with the client, but usually the volume of that stuff is a lot, and at this time of year it tends to get quite intensive.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to name drop, I suppose,
Please do.
We're delivering a lot of stuff for Sage, a lot of stuff for Flymo, a lot of stuff for Admiral. That are kind of, it's not kind of like there's no crunch point, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going through the studio for those three in particular, and that's, there's a lot more projects, clients that we're working for that are still there, but there's no last minute kind of problems with like clients, like realising that they're going to be off now, but they need something while they're away. I think everything's ticking along nicely. Everyone seems happy. We're in a good place to kind of wind down. There might be one or two, they do present themselves, but yeah. Is there anything that
It's been, considering we're only halfway through the month, I know it feels later than that, but it's been a good month already, because obviously we're sponsored the Marketing Awards at the start of the month.
Oh, we didn't mention that yet.
I just did.
Oh, you did, yeah, sorry. I'm playing catch up.
Well, this is the point where we'll cut to the footage of Kev delivering the award.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
It will be, yeah.
Going up on stage.
Looking very tanned, actually, in that footage.
Yeah.
I must say.
Tanned.
Yeah.
Glowing.
Must just be the light.
Spray. Did you go to Quick Tan before?
I did always go there.
6 minutes
My
in heaven.
my favourite salon.
You're a Megasun P9S sort of guy, aren't you?
It's not nothing. It's the P9 on nothing. P9S, yeah.
So that was the start of the month, and although technically it was the last day in November, we had a client come in, like I think we might have mentioned earlier, and sing the praises of our staff and talk about how one of the videos we made for them brought a tear to their eye, which was about their mother, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
One of the other projects this is the third year that we've worked with Trinity Square, who are obviously our neighbours around the corner in Gateshead. So 2 years ago, when the lockdown was going on, they got in touch and said, we normally do an in-person event to turn on the Christmas lights. We can't do that this year. So we want to make a sort of a children in need style programme with lots of different segments in it, live performances and different things. And then we'll do the tree light, and you can film that with no one around, and then we'll play it out live. So we did that a couple of years ago. Went down really well. They won awards for it, because believe it or not, there are shopping centre awards. And then last year, obviously, they were back to doing it in person. We did loads of stuff in the run up to it, loads of teaser clips with someone playing a Grinch and all kinds of things like that.
Was that Tom's first project to work on?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. Well, actually, the very first thing, just like with Callum, before Tom officially joined us, he shot some Trinity's Got Talent content the weekend before he joined us. Yeah. So the event for this year's lights was 3 weeks ago, something like that, middle of November. So in the driving rain, whilst we all sat at home, we were piping slippers on, a nice glass of brandy. all the thrusting young bucks of your film went out and braved the weather and filmed
the
it.
elements.
Well, I did head out there.
Well, the thrusting young bucks and Gav.
And then you went and got a coffee while
I went there for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like,
and I was
quite wet and windy this, I'm going to go home.
I was sodden. I was pouring the water up my boots by the time I got back here. So, yeah, those poor sods got absolutely drenched. But it actually, weirdly, it makes the event look better. I'll say better because it just looks
glossy in reflection.
It's the show must go on, you know. And
well, it's that and the fact that it literally it is as dark as it could possibly be. So when they've got the stage going and all the different performances, even before they turn on the lights, like it's a very colourful, bright show with lots of different turns on. And obviously we did film it differently this year as well to how we did it last year. We put another camera in the mix and kind of came at it from a slightly different position, and it's definitely the best one yet. Yeah,
that position was under an umbrella.
That was the only position.
I mean, I have to reiterate, it wasn't just, you know, light drizzle. It was pissing down constantly the entire time.
Weather warning. Was it red?
I think it was yellow. I think it was just
they would
a mild yellow weather warning.
Well, yellow does presumably means pissing down, right?
I think it does, I think it means, cancel all filming plans outdoors.
Only mad dogs in your film go out and film in the evening rain.
Yeah.
But we got a nice thank you card from them, didn't we?
We did. I mean, to be fair, we always do, but they were very quick off the mark this year with the thank you card. It was very nice, and I just think it's nice to do something for people that are local neighbours. You know, it's a different kind of project, and it just gives them, well, obviously, as I said, they've already won awards and stuff from working with us, but it's just nice to have a nice little relationship there where they know that they certainly say that we are part of the success of that event, and that's nice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah, it's they're very enthusiastic about the events that they put on, and that they're obviously all the events are free. It's something free and nice for people to take the kids to at that time of year. They're always well attended, even when it is yellow weather warnings. So fair play. We love working on them, love working with them. So nice.
Yeah, we're going to roll that VT.
I was going to say, and you love watching it. Here it is.
Good evening, everybody! Who's excited?
You want all my love and my devotion.
Them, everybody needs somebody. It's coming closer, leaves an ache in my body. Please won't you help me? Feel like I'm slipping away.
With every Christmas card I write.
Come to the end of another glorious year, or I have, with YourFilm. Is it my end of my first year, or is it the end of my second year, or is it a year and a half? Is it the second year coming into my
definitely
second
year 2, mate? Definitely
year 2.
When you come back from your Christmas holiday, you'll be officially starting year 3.
Year 3. Wow, who would have thought? That's gone pretty quick when you say 3. That has gone quickly.
Well, that's it. No, never mind.
Yeah, time flies when you're working absolute endless hours. It's the same.
Well,
yeah, that's the old phrase.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it's been a pleasure.
But in lieu of that,
anyway,
it's been a fucking pleasure. Well, it has gone very, very quickly then, you know, coming into the third year of me joining YourFilm. Off the back of, obviously, COVID, a hard year for a lot of people. I wouldn't have thought we would be, how do I put this, doing as well as we are. Pleasantly surprised from kind of coming into the business originally being like, you know, self-employed, if you like, working for myself, and becoming part of a much bigger team. It's a big jump for me, but I'm honestly really glad that I did it. We're pleased with the outcome so far, which is quite difficult for me, you know, Mr. Positive saying that.
That's lovely, Marc.
I was just about to say, it's a good job we've got all the cameras on that, otherwise we would never have heard this one.
I mean, you'll have to play it back to me because, like, tomorrow I'll be like, nah, grumpy again.
That's lovely, Marc. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I'm glad you did it.
A lot of the work and a lot of the relationships that we've built up together, and a lot of the projects that are like in production now for 2023. There's half a dozen there that are really exciting, and really wanting to see them come together and seeing the fruition of all our hard work. Hopefully I said that word correctly.
You did. You did.
Your head spun straight away. Should have said fruit. But hopefully many more good, strong, solid years ahead.
Maybe we'll do a podcast about that, Mark, one day.
What a good idea.
Well, that particular point that you just brought up.
Roll VT.
No, don't. We're going to end that one there because we've waited on for longer than anyone expected.
We need to go home.
Yeah, we do need to go home.
Hope
I'm
you found
starving.
that
So
enjoyable.
thank you for joining us for part 2 of 12 days of your film.
That's it.
Finally.
Got it right at the end.
Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe. Look, we're trying to obviously get this off the ground, build it up. Please help us. Do whatever you need to do nowadays.
Maybe the problem is
to
that
help
we
us out.
haven't instructed people to smash that like and subscribe button.
And hit the notification bell.
That's what
so that you
people
will
say
always
this-
be notified of new TriPOD / your film content.
Exactly.
So, thank you for watching. Have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year from all of us here. Goodbye.
All the best.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
Thank you.